If you are here just to hear about the sound differences between DACs at different prices, skip to this time section. I'm just going to talk about overall budget guide for a beginner audiophiles. When I say DAC, ideally I'm talking about DAC plus amp, not just the DAC itself. I'm guessing you already know what that means, but if you don't, Cameron has two solid videos breaking it down. This video is going to be more practical. I will talk about what actually matters while buying a DAC, not the internal mechanics like locks and IV stages. For IEMs mostly. Here's the first thing. Don't bother with sample rate, DHD or NQA logos. They don't tell you anything useful about real world performance. What does matter is the DAC architecture, R2R or Delta Sigma. Very generally, R2R sounds warm and organic, while Delta Sigma tends to be more clean and a bit flat. That's one of the few specs worth paying attention to, although nothing is constant. DAC chips, on the other hand, are overrated. People say ESS chips sound clinical and AKM chips sound warm, but that's half the myth. Implementation matters more. For example, the Awful Snowy Night and the Moondrop Dawn Pro uses the exact same chip, yet one sounds warm and another sounds completely flat. Same goes for numbers like signal to noise ratio or SNR and total harmonic distortion or THD. Modern DACs all measure insanely low already, and honestly sometimes lowering THD with tricks like heavy feedback loop makes the sound worse. A DAC with 0.1% THD can sound far better than some DAC with 0.00001%. What you should actually care about is noise and jitter. This is especially important for gaming PCs. Noise and jitter can cause nasty artifacts. Quick test, plug your DAC into your phone while it's offline. If you hear the sound cleans up suddenly, your PC has some problem. Now about the price. Don't assume that more expensive means better. A $1,000 DAC can sound worse than a $200 one. You either need to try it yourself to get impression from people you trust, or you can ask around in the audio communities. Also, don't expect a DAC to magically fix your headphone, but synergy is real too. The right pairing can take something good and make it amazing. The wrong pairing can make it sound awful. That's just how it works. Some IEMs are also really demanding. Normal dongles won't cut it. The Symphonium Crimson, for example, need a crazy amount of power. I maxed out my JDS Atom 2, which is at 2.6 watts per channel at almost 11 volts, and it still sounded quiet. Most headphones will run fine off a dongle, but some outliers need proper power. You will also hear a lot people saying that a perfect DAC should output flat frequency response. Technically true, but no DAC is perfect. They mostly color the sound a little here and there. Some boost the treble, some the bass. So while a DAC shouldn't change the sound, in reality they do, just subtly. Another thing, don't obsess over wattage. Yes, power is important, but not at the expense of sound quality. A small, low-power DAC can still sound way better than a high-powered one. All you need is enough power to comfortably drive your in-ear headphones. If you are maxing out the volume and it still just sounds okay, then you need an upgrade. And keep in mind, music has voltage spikes called crest factor, and that get clipped if you don't have enough headroom. That also limits your EQ flexibility. Sometimes your headphones might need more voltage than your current do. At last point, I want to say that Apple dongle is not enough for every setup. It's fantastic for its price, but it is where it stops. Now coming to the middle of the video, if a DAC changes the sound, how and when? Before starting this video, I need to mention that most of the comparisons I will talk about are in respect to tonality, because tonalities are very closely related to technicalities. Technicalities like soundstage imaging details are just another form of tonality for most of the times. Going deep into clocking mechanisms and crosstalk won't do us any good in this video, thus we'll talk about tonality only. Let's start with the cheapest option at only $10. Apple dongle. The sound is very flat. As a DAC, it should be like that. I quite like it, to be honest. It goes with everything. Nothing is extraordinary in this IEM. Everything is just average, but it still gives better experience than a PC's inbuilt DAC. Now that is our base that we have built. Let's talk about the next price segment. Under $20. Abigail Pro comes with a price tag of $15, also comes with 4.4 connection. So you can enjoy more versatility. You will get more volume, a bit more details, a better soundstage, yet I prefer the tonality of the Apple dongle because it's flat. It lacks the organicness of the sound reproduction, especially in the treble. To me, it's worth an upgrade, but it's not a complete upgrade. You will get slightly worse tonality. Now I need to mention one thing here. Although there is zero correlation between price to performance as I stepped up, the major refinement I noticed was mostly in treble after this section. That refinement also gave a sense of better detail imaging. Now you might be confused why I'm talking about imaging and detail interchangeably, because they are mostly the same thing. They are just peaks at different places. Clear definition of an instrument is imaging. once you get adjusted to the IEM's tonality over time. Now let's talk about the $30 price tag. Now let's add $10 to your budget and stretch it a bit. We get the Stanzim Stargate 2, which is a total upgrade from both the dongles. It has the tonality and ample power and the organicness too. Not only that, it also comes with a full software suite for EQ and EQ sharing. Very well recommended from my side. Another dongle which I haven't tried much, but you can take a look at that too. FIO KA11. It has more output power to drive more power hungry headphones. Both are good choices. Now let's see what $50 gets us. The Moondrop Dawn Pro. Now after this price point, I think diminishing returns starts to kick in more than usual. Coming to Dawn Pro, it sounds way better than any of the dongles I mentioned before. It also has a quite high voltage output to drive high impedance gear, but the catch is it's not actually more powerful than KA11. Still, it has plenty of power and you can drive almost any IEM in the world with this. It also has an app too, though no EQ. There are two options for your headphones, one balanced and one is unbalanced, which is not quite powerful. Technicalities are slightly better and there is not much noticeable glare or shimmer nature in the treble. Dawn Pro is my go-to dongle. I like how affordable it is, how compact it is, yet it delivers excellent sound quality with ample amount of current and voltage to drive most IEM. At the $100 price range, we have two options, both sounding very different from one another. First, we have the Awful Snowy Night. The technicalities are comparable to Apple dongle, but it is very thick sounding, not enough details, not very good at imaging, yet it has a very engaging sound signature, almost like an EQ has been added to your headphones. It's that extreme end of the spectrum, warm, lush, almost bloaty. Then comes the Tansim Luna, extremely treble focused, hyper detailed, hyper textured. Good sense of technicalities overall, but it suffers from terrible hotness. So pair it with dark sounding headphones is good mostly. It comes with a laser precise imaging and resolution, and that's the X factor of this DAC. Now we can see that the $50 to $100 difference is not linear that much. The Moondrop Dawn Pro might seem a bit better value to you, primarily because it has everything and costs less than the more expensive Snowy Night and Luna. At $200. Now let's jump to the $200 or more than $200 dongles. Here I feel there's a lot more quality difference compared to $100 range. This category is what I call the full upgrade from Dawn Pro. I want to talk about three dongles here. Q-Style M15, best dongle I ever used if you ask me. Incredible combination of tonality and technicality, never felt underpowered, almost a complete dongle according to me. Still less detailed than Tanzim Luna, which I think has the best resolution by far under $500, but it has way better tonality than any DAC amp I mentioned before. The second DAC I'm going to mention is Hiby FC6. Remember when I told you about Out2Out and Delta Sigma? Well, this is the first Out2Out DAC I'm mentioning. It has a very thick and analog sound signature, warm, lush, not very detailed, somewhat less resolving than the Dawn Pro. DC07 Pro, a good choice as well. It's a middle ground between FC6 and M15. So what do we get when we jump from $100 to $200? Exclusivity, something unique that only that DAC can give you. Now it's important to remember that no universal rule applies here. This is how the current market is. There are not necessarily better than the $100 options, and in some cases they perform below in $50 options too in certain areas. But this is how the market is. At $300 price point, we see a lot of versatility around the DAC. I want to mention here the Data Navigator. It costs around $300 and it performs on the level of M15 in terms of soundstage details imaging while having the tonality similar to DC07 Pro. So you can see the graph of improvement is not a smooth slope. It's like a staircase, a step function. But there are knowledgeable decisions that you need to make before purchasing a DAC, be it your next dongle DAC or any kind of DAC for your headphones. Quick recap before moving any higher. First of all, below $15 dongles are okay. $30 dongles are small and overall upgrade from $15 DACs. $50 DACs are a huge upgrade, both over $15 and $30 DACs. $100 DACs are a hit or miss from being a bang for buck point of view. $200 feels a special need that not always becomes an all-rounder. $300 DACs are basically side grades of $200 DACs with better features. Now again, these are all just my market observations. I'm not telling you to include this in your research paper. Watch this from a very audiophile lens and develop your own understanding about the pricing of DAC and amps. Now, if we go a bit higher, around $500, we get Bluetooth options like Qlo's MEB1, which I think is a very underrated device. It does all the things I need to do with a good battery and 1 watt output. I can comfortably spend my life with this device. Is it perfect? No, it's not. But it is sure damn good. And the added Bluetooth option makes life so easy. But how does it sound? It sounds like Qstel M15 on steroids, with a touch more warm till and a very impressive utility nonetheless. Now coming to the holy grail of portable audio, Mojo 2 at $750. Let's talk about Mojo 2. To me, Mojo 2 is the peak one can get in portable audio. Everything that makes audio good is simply there. Resolution, technical performance, tonality, it's all there. With an included battery. I compared it to $2,000 DAPs, $3,000 DAPs, side by side, and it just destroys everything without a blink of an eye. Above $750, this is where things get interesting. At $750 and above, like Diablo, I only see either side grades or downgrades in sound quality. Objectively, subjectively thinking, there is not a price you can pay for your want or need. So I generally don't think that you should spend more than $750 on DAC amp if you are not super rich or very dedicated too much to audio. For example, me and my friends will spend more than this to get something because it will satisfy our needs. For me, it's review, for them, it's pleasure. But if you are just there to pick gears to enjoy as a consumer and not as an enthusiast, you can really well settle with Mojo 2. Now, interesting thing, I compared desktop setups to portable setups. How do we correlate them? Let's start with the $80 SMSL SE1. Its performance is somewhere around M15 and DC07 Pro. Although you might need an amp to get the output, keep that in mind. If we talk about something around $200 price tag like D15 Mark III, I don't think any portable DAC amp can match its performance anytime soon under $500. The only exception is the Mojo 2. Now, what about $600 desktop DACs? Can it offer more technical performance than Mojo 2, like details, resolution, and imaging? Yes and no. In technicalities, the RT5000 is far better, yet in the tonality, Mojo 2 still wins. To end this segment, few lessons that we have learned. Apple dongle is not the best option if you consider the whole audio chain. If you are just starting, it's okay, but apart from that, it is not really good. Price has very little correlation to performance, either tonality or technical performance. Even if price contributes to improvements, it's not always constant or linear. Some DACs have unique sound characteristics, some have no flavor. You need to choose what you want. Synergy is real. It may not break or make your system, but it can make it sound awesome instead of just good. Power is a complicated topic and you need to understand it in depth before chasing power. Some $200 dongles might not outperform $50 dongles in certain circumstances. That doesn't mean that they are bad. It just means that they are not doing something unique that you may find good or bad. Although I think diminishing return kicks around $50 in dongle DACs, I personally use Mojo 2 for my listening sessions because it's incredible performance. Which should explain the diminishing return is not the thing that one should aim for in every situation. A DAC shouldn't be your first priority. It should always be your second or third. Your first priority should be your headphones and the second should be the music. Not whether it's lossless or lossy, but the quality of the mix and master. Now jumping on to the frequently asked questions, I will answer them one by one. Do I really need a DAC and amp for my headphones? Yes. Otherwise, you can play the headphones. Is a portable DAC amp notably worse than a desktop version at the same price? Not necessarily, but mostly yes. Desktop do utilize more space. Does a balance connection make it sound better? No. Although some DACs can give you a better balanced output to amp, in dongle DACs, I haven't noticed any single bit of difference. Can I connect my external DAC or amp via 3.5mm instead of USB-C? No, 3.5mm is analog. You need to supply digital. So to do digital to analog conversion. Can you suggest a good portable DAC amp for general listening around the house? Moondrop Dawn Pro is my go-to DAC amp. So I can recommend that easily. But Dawn Pro 2 is also coming, so you can wait for that. What specs should I look at to avoid hiss in IEMs? Well, it is very hard to understand by measurements. If you are new, it's always best to trust a trustable reviewer than any kind of graph testing. Instead of reading SNR graphs, just ask them. Is buying a budget portable DAC amp even worth the money? Yes, of course they're worth the money. But as I said, your priority should be your headphones, then music, then DAC amp. Help me pick a DAC amp or even a digital audio player to dip my toes in. Well, DACs are very expensive. If you can afford $1,000, go with DACs. Otherwise, get a DAC, and I use Quad Mojo 2 and Hiby R4 for a very long time, and I'm satisfied with it. Should I go for a combo unit or separate DAC amp components? Well, it's up to you. I have seen very few DAC amps that provide very good sound quality, but if you have money and disk space, go for separate items. Will a simple dongle DAC suffice for basic headphone or IM use? In-ear monitors, yes, they will mostly be enough for IMs. But headphones, I don't know. Some headphones are really hard to drive. Which DAC amp should I get for mixing on the go with laptop? Doesn't really matter, to be honest. Are built-in phone or laptop DACs trash compared to external DACs? Yes, they are, mostly because of the noise interference that you get. Do portable DAC amps help with powering high impedance headphones? Well, yes, but the voltage swing needs to be very high. For example, Quad Mojo 2 has 5.2 VRMS, so it can run HD 600 and 650 faithfully, yet a 2 VRMS DAC amp can't. Can a cheap DAC sometimes make audio worse? It's not worse, it's just not fully refined presentation. A respectable DAC amp won't hurt your music anyhow. What's the best portable DAC right now for the right now for the buck? Uh, I don't know. K11 or Target 2. Should I prioritize headphones upgrade over DAC amps upgrade every time? Will a DAC change my headphone sound signature or just the clarity of it? It won't change the sound signature. It will wiggle the tonality a bit. It might make it better. It might make it worse. It's up to the DAC amp and the headphone pairing. Is using an EQ on a DAC amp smarter than headphone tuning? EQ is inherently smart. I don't know what it means, to be honest, but you should use EQ anyhow. How much battery does a portable DAC amp drain from my phone? Depends on the dongle. Some might end up your battery in 3 hours. Some can last up to 8 hours.